Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Comics Fiend Podcast, where we talk about comics, movies, video games, anime, manga, really anything pop culture. Welcome. Glad you could join. So, a couple things I wanted to go over real quick. I touched on a few things in the last episode, and I'm going to keep the episode up. It was a test, but I enjoyed making said test. It wasn't easy. It wasn't, it was a little scary to put yourself out there, right? But I do want to say thank you for checking this new adventure out with me. I know sometimes people just kind of come across this and go, "Oh, what's this?" and listen. Hopefully, I can get a bigger audience, and anybody that listens to this, if you could please give it a share, I'd appreciate it. I appreciate all the help I can get on this channel because this is a venture I would really like to get into. As I said in my last issue, once you hit your 30s, you kind of got a choice on what you're going to do. And I'm in my mid-30s, just hit 35. So I figured about time I make a podcast, because you either make podcasts or you make beer. Like I said in the last episode, I don't drink beer, so podcast it is. One thing I am going to say, excuse the beep, carbon monoxide alarms are a thing. It is getting worked on. So with that being said and out of the way, we're going to get into what the mission statement for Comics Fiend actually is. Some of you are going, but you kind of went over this already. I'm like, I understand that, but this is also just in case the last episode was just a test, and I was going to delete it. But I'm going to keep it up for now. So I want to give people another chance to kind of understand where we're coming from and what page we're on. With that being said, welcome. Appreciate that you're here. Comics Fiend, again, is going to be pop culture. All the pop culture, all the time. If you don't like it, there's other podcasts to listen to. I don't know what to tell you here. You saw the name Comics Fiend, and this is what you're signing up for, is comics and movies and all of that in between. And I'm going to go over, through the entire life of this channel, I'm going to go over a lot. Because there's a lot to go over. Like, you think about it, comics is, what, an 80-year medium at this point? 90-year medium? Superman being one of the oldest comic book heroes, and he was based off of John Carter from Mars. That series. That's a nice trip for you. Yeah, if you ever want to know where Superman kind of got his ideas from, read the John Carter's from Mars series. That's where the basics for a lot of Superman came from. So, books, movies, all that we'll talk about on this. And the influences. The influences of the outside world on comics is definitely going to be a topic on here. And comics on the outside world, that's going to be a thing as well, because I really feel like comics has made people better in certain ways, in my own opinion. In what ways, you ask? I don't really know, but we'll discover that later. So again, mission statement for Comics Fiend, pop culture talk, pop culture TV. We're going to get there. We're going to go over it. We're going to dissect it. I have a lot of catching up to do as well, because there's shows and stuff that I haven't seen that I actually want to watch. And it's stuff that, was on my watch list. This gives me an extra reason to watch it. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's in between. But that's what it's fun about. There's something for everybody. When you're reading a comic, watching comic shows, there's something for everybody within that group. And with that, I think that sometimes movies don't do as well, or shows don't do as well, because it misses the audience. Because comic movies and shows as a medium are now targeting not just one demographic. They're targeting multiple demographics. And when you do that, you start losing ground a little bit, but that's nobody's fault here or there. But that's for a different time. That's actually a good topic. I'm going to write that down, because discourse in comics and movies is a fantastic topic. One of the things I do want to talk about, though, is favorite superheroes. Everybody you talk to has a favorite superhero. You could walk up to a random stranger on the street and be like, "Hey, excuse me, who's your favorite superhero?" And they're probably going to give you one. They're not going to be like, especially nowadays. Now comics and movies are so much bigger than they were back in the day. Everybody has an opinion on who their favorite superhero is. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has one. And that's okay. That's a good thing. Mine is probably one of the more popular favorite superheroes. It's somebody I grew up with. It's somebody I grew up watching. I grew up watching the movies. I saw the cartoons. I caught the old cartoons. I have some of the old comics. Spider Man. I have been a Spider Man fan for 20 some odd years. Like, before the Tobey movies. Like, I'm talking mid 90s. Spider Man cartoon was my favorite cartoon series growing up. And that didn't even, like, have a full conclusion of the series. But that's where my love of comics started, was the mid 90s. I remember going with my dad to the comic shop and picking up a couple comic books for me, and I was always wanted Spider-Man. Like, over everybody else, I'm like, I gotta have Spider-Man. And one of the first series that, like, I cut my teeth on with Spider-Man was his Identity Crisis in the late 90s. So this was after, I want to say this was after the Clone Saga. So essentially, Spider-Man was framed for murder and had to go into hiding. So Peter Parker made 4 different identities for Spider-Man. It was the Hornet, or the Wasp, Hornet. It was the Hornet, Ricochet, Prodigy, and Dusk. All were meant to keep Peter safe. Or Spider-Man safe, while he figured out the murders. It was such a neat, like, concept, and I really wanted them to do something similar with No Way Home. Instead of doing the One More Day storyline from the comics, I thought having him don a couple different suits to get to the bottom of it would have been kind of neat. But I guess that'd be a little too convoluted for a Marvel movie. Right now, at least. But yeah, that's where I got my love of Spider-Man, was way back then. And then seeing Spider-Man, the first one, in movies, I was like, my god, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And Spider-Man 2 is my favorite superhero movie. Like, it's my favorite. It's just the themes, Sam Raimi with his horror elements. It was the pinnacle of what a superhero movie should be, especially a sequel. It built up on the original premise. It continued the story of the characters. He had a hard time adjusting to being a hero and a regular person. And it showed that he has to focus. He has to focus on one or the other. Like, he could give it all up. He had that choice to either give up all his powers and walk away, or keep going. And I think that says a lot for a hero when it speaks to what a hero is when that happens. And when you're going through that, it really does hit a theme really well. And I just can't. It was such a good movie, and the themes in it were really impactful. And you know, I'm going to quote a scene from that movie, because I feel like this is probably one of the most impactful quotes on me when I was growing up and as I was a teenager. And honestly, I highly recommend going back to watch that movie. It still holds up. Like, the horror elements are good, the villain's good, Aunt May is fantastic. The chemistry between Toby and Kirsten was so much better in that movie than the first one. But listen, you know what? I'm not going to read it. I want you to go experience Rosemary Harris's line for yourself. Go look that up. Go look up the saying, everybody, just Spider-Man 2, everyone needs a hero. And I'm pretty sure it'll pull it up on YouTube. Highly recommend. One of the best motivational scenes from a superhero movie to date. And I don't think we get that a lot. I don't think there's enough scenes in movies today that makes you feel that uplifted. Especially in comic book movies. We're starting to head towards the same thing that Batman does, and everything's dark and dreary, and oh my god, it's moody. And like, there's a place for that, but I feel like in other superhero movies, there's a place to be uplifted. And every superhero movie that's not Batman should have, even in Batman, I feel like there should be moments where you can feel uplifted with the hero. Like in Spider-Man 2, on the train, like, again, this is my favorite movie, and I can go off about it all day. for superhero movies. Um, when he's on the train and he's holding the train back and he passes out from. I mean, Toby makes some god awful faces there. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it looks like he's trying to go to the bathroom in his pants, but he's also trying to show struggle and holding on. The suit is ripping. He's holding on to the train. He's in front of a moving train, putting a bunch of webs together to stop it. And then he passes out from after he saved everybody. Like, he put his body through the ringer and did what he could to hold it together. And we can talk about feats and strengths of the different Spider-Mans that have been in film, but I'm just specifically talking about my favorite Spider-Man movie. And then seeing him get picked up because he almost fell, and all of New York standing behind him was such a cool, like, moment where it shows that when you're doing the right thing, people have your back. And when you're willing to save people, you inspire them to potentially save you. And he was, as they said, he was just a kid. Like Toby in that movie, in Spider-Man 2, granted, they just zipped right through high school. And he was a college kid. He was probably about 22 when, I don't remember the exact age. Somebody can look that up. He was probably about 22, I want to say. Maybe 21 in Spider-Man 2. Like, he was still just struggling to make ends meet, you know, living on his own, trying to pay rent, just being an average, basically millennial right now. Like, he was the original millennial struggle, come to think about it, because, you know, everybody's trying to make their ends meet now. And I feel like that movie really did. Spider-Man and his struggles and his successes has really kind of impacted me as growing up. And with your favorite superhero also, you don't have to know everything. I feel like that's a conversation we need to have as well. You can have a favorite superhero and not know everything. I don't know everything about Spider-Man. Do I know a good majority? Yes. Do I know it all? No. Am I willing to have an open discussion to learn more? Absolutely. I am always willing to learn more about characters that I enjoy. But listen, this is going to be the wrap-up of episode 2. I wanted to say thank you to everybody that's listening, everybody that is going to give me suggestions, the comments down below. I appreciate them all. Also, I want to have a word from our sponsors. Ba-da-ba-ba! There are none, because I'm doing this on my own, from my bedroom, with a desk. So really, I guess this is just thanks to me. That sounds really self-righteous, but listen, I'm just being sassy. I wanted people to know that I started this on my desk, in my room, with the carbon monoxide beeper beeping, even though the battery is fine. It's apartment living for you. I got a stack full of comics I can go over. There's so much I want to do with this channel, and I appreciate you guys taking out the time of your day to give me that 10-15 minutes. It means the world to me. And I hope that you guys stick around for the future. There's going to be some amazing things that come from this. And I hope it does, at least. Like, that's my hope. I really want to start trying to put myself out there and do more content creation. So, with that being said, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all you do. And if you do any one thing today, make someone's life just a little bit better. Sometimes all it is just a smile. So, I'm going to tell you, I can't say smile more because that's somebody else's thing. I'm going to eventually figure out some saying to give you a good sign off. But until then, get strong, stay strong, be strong. I love you. See you next time.